Hi everyone. So today I'll be showing you how to take your front-end React application and deploy it to AWS Cloudfront. So first we'll go through some slides, then I will do a hands-on on showing you how to take your React application and showing you the necessary steps you need to take to deploy your application to AWS Cloudfront. So first, what are the components we're working with? For this hands-on, we'll be using Amazon S3. We're using Amazon CloudFront, GitHub Action for automating deployments. The next, okay, so we have here Amazon S3. What is Amazon S3? Basically, it's a cost-effective, highly performant object storage service provided by Amazon. It provides this idea of buckets where you can store your objects, such as blobs, documents, videos. You can also use it as backup, file storage, archiving. Also, you can use S3 to host your front-end assets. Next, we have CloudFront. CloudFront is Amazon's content delivery network. It provides a much faster way to deliver assets. This can be video on demand videos. It has caching abilities and it makes use of AWS nearest edge location. So when users are requesting your web page, they get results from their nearest edge location. So this greatly reduces latency and makes your website faster. And this CloudFront supports HTTP1, HTTP2, and it's one of the most common way to deploy front-end assets, your website on Amazon. So the next component we'll be working with is GitHub Action. GitHub Action is an automation tool provided for developers. It enables you to automate any workflow. So in this hands-on, we'll be using GitHub Action to create a CI/CD pipeline where during the automated deploys, we'll be pushing our code to GitHub, and once it gets to GitHub, an action is triggered, and then the project, our front-end project, is built and deployed, pushed to S3 bucket. Then we will update CloudFront. We would invalidate the cache on CloudFront to pull the new items on S3 bucket. So our deployment, first we'll do it manually, then by going through the AWS console, creating a bucket, creating a distribution, that is a CloudFront distribution. Then we'll automate that workflow using GitHub Action. GitHub Action is easy, it's convenient, because once you have a GitHub repository, you can easily spin up, add a workflow configuration file, and GitHub Action will run. So so our deployment would look like, first we'll have our front-end assets built. We'll push those assets. That is when you run yam build or npm build, depending on your package manager. This will generate a build folder that contains your front-end assets with a single index.html file. So we're looking at pushing those files to S3 storage. Then we'll create a CloudFront distribution that will read files from the S3 bucket and catch it on CloudFront. So when a web request comes, it will come over to CloudFront, and the static assets will be served through CloudFront. Okay. So let's get into the hands-on. First, we'll be doing the manual deploys, and then we would automate it using GitHub Action. Over here, I have the application we'll be deploying. This is my sample application. This can be any React application, maybe a project you're working on, or any React application as well. Down in the video description, you can find a link to this application. You can clone it and try to do this yourself. And also on this tab, I've got the deployment script. This will be included in the video description as well. So in case you want to add this to your workflow on GitHub, you want to create a GitHub action that will deploy your front end to CloudFront. So here I have it. I will add a link to it to the video description. Next, now we have our application. I'll first open up my AWS console and log into my AWS account. So over here, I'll just sign into console. Okay, I believe my passwords are already there. I can sign in. Okay, so I'm signing into console to my console. So here I have my management console. We'll go over to S3 because that's the first service. We need to create an S3 bucket and then connect that bucket to CloudFront. Create a CloudFront distribution and connect it to the bucket. So let's just go over to S3. Okay. While we're doing this, I have my terminal open on the left here. So if you're using I'm on Mac, so I'm using my terminal. If you're on Windows, I think Linux is almost the same thing. On Windows, you'll likely be using Git Bash. So right here, you can see on this, I am currently on the directory where I have my project. You can see it's a typical React application with my package.json file, my source folder. If we go inside my source folder, ls, you see these are the components, different components. This is my index.tsx page file. So I'll just go over to the roots and I'll just run build. So we'll get the our build folder generated. Okay, while that's happening, let's create our S3 bucket. So here, right here on the right, I will minimize this a bit. Then I'll click on create bucket. Create bucket. So give my bucket a name. You need to give a unique name. So I'll just type a name, my website. I'll give it 2022. So next, I think for now, this is all we have to do. So just giving it a name and leaving all the defaults as they are. So yeah, just give your bucket a name and then click on create bucket. Okay, I think my front end asset is done building. So I can open up this bucket I just created. And then I need to upload everything in the build folder right here. So I will click upload. I want to upload my assets. Click upload. Then next I'll add files first and add any folders inside the build directory. So I'll go over to where I have. So now it's desktop, project, front end. I think that's the build. For now, I'll select the files and then click open. Right. So the next thing I need to add the folder. There is a static folder inside. So I'll select that folder and I'll click upload. Uploading 11 files to this site. This will upload all files on static. Okay. So yeah, we've uploaded the files, the static files. You can see the file path inside here. So we've added it to the upload payload. So the next thing we click upload. So it's uploading. So next we'll create a CloudFront distribution and connect it to this S3 bucket. So the last one is done. Okay, our access is done. Uploading, almost done. Yeah, we're done here. So we'll close this, and on the search here, I'll move over to CloudFront. So I'll type CloudFront. And I'll open this on a new tab. So click here. Just clear this. Okay, so I will then click on create new distribution. So I'll now under origin domain, I'll select my S3 bucket down here. The S3 bucket I just created as my origin domain. Next, under S3 bucket access, I'll click yes. Because we're trying to secure our bucket, we're not providing public access, so we need to provide an origin access identity. And so we'll create new origin access identity. So this will update the S3 bucket policy. So we'll click yes, update bucket policy to allow S3 get objects from that bucket. So we'll click yes. So the new origin access identity will be added to the bucket policy. That is the S3 get bucket get object policy will be added to the bucket. So we then can fetch to allow CloudFront fetch assets from the bucket. Okay, I think we'll leave the rest of the settings as default. Next, we'll click, yeah, the rest as default. Next, we'll click on create distribution. This will take a moment. It's currently deploying. While it's deploying, let's create some error pages. So click on error pages tab, click create custom error response. So we'll start with 400 bad request. We'll put in a TTL time to live of 30. And since our app is a single page application, we just have one index and we handle errors inside the app. We'll click yes for customized error response and we'll select the path and we're saying /index.html. So this file will be served whenever this kind of error is thrown. So we'll click yes 200 response and we'll click create custom error response. So then we'll do this, repeat the same step for 403. So select here 403 forbidden. If you don't do this, whenever you try to go to the CloudFront distribution URL, you'll get access denied. So we'll give this 30. Then customize error response, yes. We'll select a path /in same path index.html. We'll change this to 200 response and we'll click create error response. So we'll have these two. Let's check if our distribution is done deploying. It's still deploying, so we'll hang on a minute. We'll go back to the table and just refresh until we get a date here, last modified date. We'll keep waiting. So I'll pause the video and come back once this is done. So this is done deploying. You can see under the last modified, you can see that there is a date there. We can now click on the distribution ID and copy the distribution domain name, pasting this on a new tab and hitting enter. You see we have our application. It's the same application we have right on local. We have that same application here. So I'll just test the application. And yeah, so it's just basically you finding nearest hospital closest to you, and I'll type Clean Springs, and so this is built with Google Play API. So yeah, so I have it working. So this is the manual deploy approach. The next thing we'll do is automate this process because it's not convenient for you to always like build your assets on local, go to your S3 bucket, push the asset before invalidating CloudFront distribution, then before your website is updated or your front-end application is updated. So we'll do this, we'll automate this process by using GitHub Action, and whenever a push is done to the master branch, that will trigger update S3, build the project, update S3, and invalidate CloudFront. So let's get into that. I'll head over to GitHub. I'll close this. I'll head over to GitHub. So how do I do this now? Okay, github.com. I'll just create a new repository. This is loading. GitHub is taking longer. Okay, so I'll just do new. It's still loading. Okay, I'll do new. So I'll give my repository name cf deploy. Next, I'll give a description, application deployment to CloudFront. Yeah, it should be public. I'll create my repository. Yeah, I have my repository created. Then I'll add this repository to what I have here on local. I'll go over to my project and add this remote. So right here, I'll just do ls to check that I don't have git here. Okay, this is need to do git init. So this will initialize a git repository, a local git repository. So I can do git remote add origin, then pasting the URL I copied on the remote. So I can then do git push origin master, pushing to the master branch. Yeah, pushing. Okay, sorry. Git push origin master. This was add origin. Git push origin master. Did I miss anything? Oh, sorry. Git add. Git commit version add project files. Okay, git push. I think I have a git ignore here before I push node modules. Git ignore. Git ignore. Yeah, I do. So I don't push my node modules. So can do git committed, right? Git push origin master. Okay, I've just pushed. I can refresh this. Let me just reload this page. So we have our project on GitHub now. I'll slide this a bit to get more space. Okay, it's loading up. So next, now we need to add an action workflow, specifying an event so that whenever we push, it runs that particular workflow. So to do that, we would first, first let's look at the cf deploy script. So this is the script we'll be using, the workflow we'll be using on GitHub Action. So we can see here that on the workflow, I'm making reference to some secrets. These secrets are stored inside the repository settings. So we need to add these secrets like the AWS access key, AWS access key ID, AWS access key default origin, as well as some other project secrets. Like for my project, I had to include a React app URL. So for the React app, the backend URL you should be calling. So yeah. So we need to do that. So for you to enable access to upload your assets to H3, you need to provide some form of you need to provide this secret. So for you to get that, you need to go into your AWS account and go move over to Identity and Access Management IAM. So, we'll go over to IAM. It's loading up. So right here, you can create a user with programmatic access. Right here, you can see under users, got you can see this user have a with programmatic access CLI. You can just add user, and when you do this, you'll be given the secret key and secret key ID. So let me just show you. This is still loading up. So you provide your username. This is any name of your choice. You select what kind of access. So you'll be selecting access key programmatic access. So you'll be giving the access key ID and access key, secret access key. So ensure that this user has permissions to full permissions to S3 and permissions to CloudFront. Or if it's in your account, you can just give administrative access. Okay, so next let's add those secrets to GitHub before creating an action file. So I'll move over to GitHub. I'll click on settings. Okay, so under secrets, actions, I'll click add new repository secret. So I will go to the template file I have here, the YAML file. The first secret I have here is my React app API URL. I'll add that here. So I need to provide a value. I can get that from my env here. So React app API URL. I will copy this. So let me see. Okay, so this is a different one. Okay, I will copy the. I think this is I'm using React app URL. So this is supposed to be React app URL. So you can then copy this, paste it here. Okay. I missed the secret name. Let me add the secret name. Copy this, paste it here. So add secret. Okay, I'll add a second one for the map. I'll add new secret. Let's see. provide the, okay, I'll copy the secret. So by the way, I'll be removing this secret. I'll be deactivating this secret once I'm done with this recording. So ensure you're using your own secret. Okay, so I will then add the ones for AWS. And so I'll just come down here and copy the name. So the name, first one, AWS access key. You get this whenever you create the AWS user with programmatic access. So I'll add this here. I would then get that secret. I think it's on my root directory.aws is okay. So my root directory aws/credentials. So I have the access key ID here. I'll paste this here. I'll add secret. So next thing I need to add like two more of this secret. Oh, I clicked something different. Okay, add new secret. So the next secret we need to add is the AWS secret access key. AWS secret access key, yeah. So I will just copy this. Okay, I'll paste it here. Paste in the value. This will be given to you once you create the user on AWS. Okay, so the last thing we need to add is the default region. I'll come over to this file, AWS default region. Add new repository secret. So for my default region, I'll be using US East 1. So under your AWS account, right at the top here, you can find choose a default region. This is the global console. Let me right here when you click the drop down, you should see, yeah, these are the regions. So you have US East 1. So I'll be using US East 1. So I'll just come down here, US East 1, and I'll click add secret. So I think we're done with the secret. So let's now move over to actions. I'll go over to actions, shift this a bit. So we'll have more space. Yeah, so you can see on GitHub Actions, you can find different action templates you can work with. Like maybe you're starting a new one, you want to write a workflow for Node.js, you can write for Java, Webpack. You can use AWS template, but since we already have our workflow, we can just click set up workflow yourself. So there is a bare minimum workflow code down here. We'll just remove it. So I'll copy what I have here. Okay, I'll do a bit of explanation what the code here is doing. So this is a name. It's up to you. You can choose a name for your workflow. Now this is the trigger. We're saying that whenever there is a push to the master branch, then that event will trigger what this workflow. So we're specifying a job and we're specifying the runtime. We're saying this should run on Ubuntu, and now we're using a strategy to this in Ubuntu. It's a virtual machine. So once this Ubuntu is getting set up, we're specifying that Node.js should be installed, Node.js 2, 12 point. This is any version of Node.js, like 12 point, version 12 point of Node.js should be installed. So set up an Ubuntu system, an Ubuntu virtual machine with Node.js installed, because our project depends on Node.js. For you to run Yarn, for you to run any Node-related project, you need to have Node.js installed in the virtual machine. So each of these jobs runs on individual virtual machines. So the next is the step. First, for us we need to check out the code. This action/checkout is actually we're making use of another action file that performs the action of checking out. So you can head over to GitHub and you search on action/checkout. You get to see the code of this. So this is us making use of an external action script rather. So the next one here is so this is doing the node setup using it's more like setting up Node.js. Next one is installing. We're installing the packages using Yarn, and then we're building the packages, and then we're saving the artifact after build, so that on subsequent steps we can make use of that build file. So when we're deploying, we can make use of that build, that artifact. So right here, I will change this to, since on a project we use sample project is making use of npm. So I'll do right here npm, change this to npm install, npm install. So this is Yarn. Change this to npm build, npm run build. So this will build our artifact. We'll save it, and on this other step, the deploy step, we're still using an Ubuntu virtual machine. We're then making use of that artifact. We're getting the artifact that was used for the previous step. You can see here there is a declaration needs build. So this deploy step will run whenever the build step is complete. So next thing is we configure the AWS credentials. This tells you that this is using a different action script that has already been done. So with GitHub Actions, just like SecurCI, you can make use of Aws, like code that has already been done that you can pull into your workflow and still perform a particular action. So this code has already defined the actions you can perform. So this code helps you configure AWS credentials so that you can run AWS commands. So here we're passing in the we're pulling the secrets from the repository. We're pulling the AWS access key we added recently. We're pulling the secret key, and we're pulling the default region. So the next command we deploy to S3. So we're running a command here. First of all, I'm setting a variable, specifying the bucket name. So I'll change this to the bucket we just created. So I said my website 2022. So this will be the name of the bucket you created. So what this will do is running an AWS command S3 sync whatever is in this current directory, which is what we configured, where will be on the build directory. Push this to the specified bucket, and then putting in an ACL of private. So before we would run this action script, we need to update some settings on. We need to ensure we have ACL access turned on S3. So next, after updating the bucket with the new build asset, we need to invalidate Cloudfront, because Cloudfront catches your assets on the content delivery network stored in an edge location closest to the user. So we need to clear that catch. So how we do that is by creating an invalidation saying, okay, this the items on the cache are no more invalid, so are no more valid. So let's CloudFront pull new item from the source, which is our S3 bucket. So we can do that by running this command. So before that, we should replace this distribution ID with our distribution ID. So head over to CloudFront. The distribution ID is this ID here. Copy this. Come over to GitHub. I'll paste it. So it makes use of this distribution ID. So I think that's it. Let me scroll to the top. I think I need to update the env. Yeah, I think here is React app URL. React app. React app. I had it as React app URL. So just remove the API. Yeah, I think there is one more. So for my project, using also I have, so this is depending on the project you're working with. So you might be building a front-end project that has no environment variable, so you don't need to do this. So I'll just change this to, I need to provide the Google Map API key. So I'll just do this. This is down here and pull down the secret. Yeah. So before we run this, because if we run this now, this will fail because of ACL. So ACL needs to be turned on our repository. So I'll head over to AWS and go to S3 and click on S3. By the way, under the video description, you'll find a link to the article in case you need a step-by-step guidance on how to do this. So why is it going to US West 1? Okay. Okay, I think I created my bucket on US to West 1. So I'll just take this and update the GitHub secret to US West 1. Well, let's update the ACL. So under permissions, we think. So we'll see down here we have so for us to be able to edit ACL, enable ACL, we need to first change the object ownership. So go over to object ownership. Sorry, under object ownership, we can enable ACL. So right there, we click on ACL enabled. Okay, ACL terms of object ownership enforcement. Okay, so I'll call it this. Say yes, save changes. Okay, so I think that's it. So let's look at the ACL access control list as ACL. So we have the bucket owner. We need to make sure that the account we're using is part of the ACL, is on the ACL list. So to do that, I have a command here. So I'll copy that command and I will. So I need to get my account, my CLI conical ID, and check that it's part of the ACL list. So I can paste this command. So the ACL is 2986 and ends with 08C. So let me check my bucket. So I see I have that conical ID as part on the ACL list and with access list right, read right. So that means my AWS CLI user can write to this bucket and read from this bucket. So 08C. Yeah, so it matches. So if it's not here, like the CLI user you have does not match what's on the ACL list, you need to edit the ACL list and edit the ACL list and add guarantee. Use put in the conical ID, give it list write, read write access. Okay. So I think that's all we need to do. Then move back to GitHub. We just commit this. Commit this. This might fail because of I have the wrong default region, but I'll update that. So I'll commit this into the master branch. Add workflow file. Commit directly into master. Yes, commit. Okay. So we'll head over to actions to see our actions running. There's actions. So our action is running. So on push, the main.yaml file is running. You can see that the first job is waiting for the second job. The second job is waiting for the first job to complete, which will build the project, and then before deploying it. So until this one completes, this one would not run. So while that's happening, I will just update my secret, like my default region, to use this bucket region. So the bucket region is US East 1, I think. Yeah, region US East, US West 2 rather. So I'll copy this. You need to make sure you're specifying the right default region for so down here we just go back to settings, secret, actions. So go back to default region. I'll update this and I'll put in a value, change it to US West EU West 2. Update secret. I think that's it. So go over to actions. So the action is still running. So the action is still running. I will pause this and come back once this is complete. So you can see here that our workflow has completed. If we click on the first one, first job, we'll see that it builds the. Click on it to get more details. Just click on it. Yeah. So you see that first of all, set up, run the checkout, install Node.js, npm install, npm build, share artifact. After running the build, so this is the normal thing you see whenever you run a build from your local computer. So after running the build, the post. This is the post run after I build all the a particular job is completed. So share artifact. This is exactly the same steps we added on our workflow. So the next thing is after this completes, then the deploy runs. So we head over to deploy. So you can see here we have the set of jobs, the get artifacts. This gets the artifacts from the build. We configure our AWS credentials, then we deploy to S3. So let's take a peek at what deploying to S3 is like. So you can see that it's uploading all the files, the index.html files down to the S3 bucket. Yeah, so all the static files inside the static folder, deploying them to S3. There are a lot of files. Next is we create the CloudFront invalidation. We head over to CloudFront and see what this looks like. So we've done that, and okay. So this is the created time validation batch. So this is currently in progress. So I believe once we get it, we completed. So then the job is completed. So let's head over to CloudFront to see these are things that were done from GitHub action. So head over to CloudFront, go over to invalidations. You see that invalidation was created here. So you can see that it's complete now. Let's check if we can find a matching ID. Head over to the workflow, the invalidation distribution ID. So we can find here the invalidation /i2e0x. So come over to CloudFront, you can see i2e0x. So this invalidation was created from our workflow file on GitHub. So let's head over to S3 bucket. So right here we have our bucket. I will just refresh this. So we still have our object. This object were updated from S3 as well. So I think that's it. Let's now check our website, our front-end project. We can go over to General tab, copy the URL, paste it. So we can see that everything works as expected. So we can just search here, Queen Springs, to find our hospital. Queen Springs, other hospitals around. So yeah, so that's it for this video. And if you have any question, you can put it on the comment section, or you can also refer back to the article that will be attached in the description. Thank you.